Hello, welcome back to Mental Health Awareness, Coping Skills for Mental Health, where we really are just going through a bunch of different coping skills, putting them into a playlist so that you, the viewer, have a bunch of different coping skills that you can access at any point. So these videos are meant to be a little bit quicker, a little bit shorter, just one coping skill per video. And if you're not sure about how I think about coping skills, it might be worth watching the first episode in the video just so you see what I mean coping skills. There are two specific types that I like to delineate between. You can check that out in the other video. Hi, my name is Jesse. Welcome to the channel Open Source Owners, where we talk about what if humans had an owner's manual. And in this playlist, we talk about coping skills all the time. All right, let's jump on into it. This is a daily practice coping skill, not what I call an emergency coping skill, though this could be used in an emergency. This one that we're going to do today is typically done as a practice for 21 to 45 days, something like that, until you begin to notice a benefit. All daily practice coping skills attempt to regulate the nervous system, which includes the brain and brain activity. That's how they work. This particular coping skill, as you can see here, is about anxiety. So if you struggle with anxiety, long-term daily anxiety that doesn't seem to get better or go away without intervention, then this is a good coping skill for you. How do these questions help regulate the nervous system? Well, they do that by activating the prefrontal cortex, the executive functioning of the mind, which has this teeter-totter effect on the amygdala, which is the reactivity aspect of the mind, and which drives anxiety in a lot of cases. When we activate the prefrontal cortex, it sort of like tells the amygdala to chill. There's no danger. There's no reason to be sending these anxious signals. Now, can anxiety come from elsewhere? Yes, it can be driven by other things, and we'll talk about that in 1 second. Let's get into these questions. If you answer these by writing them down, writing the answer down every day, that will improve the efficaciousness or the functionality of the coping skill. The coping skill will work better if you write them down. So go ahead and answer these questions now. First question. What's one thing I'm anxious about today? Just write that down. Just pick one thing. Second question. What's one practical thing I can do to prepare for the thing that I'm anxious about? One practical thing. Third question. What's one reason it's probably not going to be as bad as I fear? Fourth question. What's one reason I can probably handle it? Fifth question. What's one upside of the situation? This is my favorite question, by the way, because it flips the script on our normal anxious thinking. First of all, we don't normally interrogate our anxious thoughts or our anxious experience like we're doing now with these questions. Second of all, we rarely, if ever, without questions like this, ask what's the potential upside of the situation? It's a very interesting question. And 6, what's the next best step or action that I can take right now in response to these other 5 questions? In other words, if I'm feeling anxious about work, what's one action I can take that would make sense that I can do pretty much now, pretty much the moment I get done answering these questions? Maybe it's running, maybe it's drinking water, maybe it's calling a friend. What's one thing you can do as a direct response to your anxiety? And that's it. Those are the 6 questions that I would use as a daily practice. You'd write these down. You can have them laminated. You can have them on your computer, put it on a Post-it note, whatever. And when you're answering the questions, write down your list of answers to each question, and then go ahead and engage in the action step at the end for some period of time. And that is a great way to help regulate the mental aspect of feeling anxious. And it regulates the nervous system, as we've talked about, by bringing on the prefrontal cortex. Now, how is this going to work over time? Let's talk about the neuroscience. 21 to 60 days, that's the window of time under which you'll actually begin to notice the positive effect of a coping skill. So don't give up on any coping skill unless you practice it for roughly every day for 5 minutes or less of the 21 to 60 day window. If you quit on day 10, you'll probably notice very little effect, and you'll say something like, hey, Jesse, that didn't work. Or I've tried coping skills before and they don't work. But in reality, if you're not trying them for some period of time, at the lowest end, 21 days, then you're not giving your neural networks a chance to actually begin to build the neural pathways that actually make the skill easier to accomplish and the skill more effective in the long run. 5 minutes or less is the critical time frame that we need to practice new coping skills. This is good news. It means you don't have to practice coping skills for hours at a time or even a half hour at a time, which can be very challenging for people struggling with mental health struggles. So 5 minutes or less, totally doable, even if this takes 2 or 3 minutes, but you do it every single day without missing a day. You might miss a day here and there, but you try to do it every single day for 21 days minimum, 5 minutes or less. Then you'll begin to notice the patterns become more ingrained into your consciousness. And eventually, if you do something like the anxiety questions, they'll just be in your head and you can carry them around when you have an anxious thought while you're driving. You can actually begin to use these questions as they come up in a spontaneous way to regulate the anxiety. And stack it. Remember, we've talked about this in previous ones. Stacking coping skills just means doing them next to something you already do. So if every morning you wake up and have toast and eggs and coffee, well, have toast, eggs, coffee, and then quickly do your anxiety questions or quickly do some other coping skill. That's stacking it. You stacked it next to something you already do, and that will make the likelihood of you sticking to the coping skill much more prevalent. Questions for you. Please leave your answers in the comment section below. What do you think of the anxiety questions that we just did? And can it help in terms of your mental health? Do you think that this skill could actually help your anxiety? And if so, please tell us how. Have you ever had success with questioning your anxiety, aka noticed a benefit in your life from this set of questions or from any other type of experience, maybe with a therapist who suggested to you, hey, let's question this anxiety. Let's interrogate the anxiety. Have you ever noticed any success while doing so? Again, please leave comments in the comment section below. Thank you very much. And if you need a little bit of support in your mental health journey, consider joining the Home Mentorship program. That's my program where we run through these 4 main domains of mental health. Let's look at them now: biological, spiritual, social, and psychological. Typically, we think of anxiety as arising out of the psychological domain, but in fact, it can also arise out of any of them, particularly the biological domain. So while we may be practicing coping skills, exercising our mind, rewiring neural pathways, there could also be other drivers, particularly, again, as I'll say, the biological domain. That's why it's critical to focus on these 4 aspects of mental health continuously. And that's why I think the Home Mentorship program is a great fit. And if you're interested, go ahead and click the link below to find out more. These are my free ebooks that I wrote for you, and I want to give them to you just as a way to say thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. That was mental health awareness, coping skills for mental health. We're just going through a bunch of different coping skills. Take them or leave them. The key to coping skills is to have a small handful, maybe 5 to 7 is usually what I tell my clients. You don't need all the coping skills in the world. You don't need to just try one for a little bit and then try another for a little bit and say coping skills don't work. Instead, you need to find 5 to 7 that do work for you, you do notice benefits from, and practice them in a sort of daily commitment or a self-care sort of way, meaning you do them because you might need a regular practice, a daily self-care routine or ritual to help take care of and balance your mental health. There's no shame in that game. We all might need a little bit of mental health practice. We all might need a little bit of self-care on the regular to manage our anxiety, depression, our focus, our thoughts, our emotions, etc. Not a big deal. Everybody could use a little bit of regular self-care. So that's all coping skills are. They're things that you do that directly focus on the areas you're struggling in to help manage yourself, to help manage your mental health. And on that note, thanks guys for watching the video. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves out there. Bye-bye.